Look, listen up. Building something that really matters isn't about showing off what you can do or proving you're smarter, faster, better than anyone else. It's not a game of ego. But here's the brutal truth. Way too many founders, maybe even you, are stumbling into the exact trap they promised themselves they'd avoid. The trap where the product, the ideas, the entire mission become nothing more than a mirror for their own ego. And that mirror? It's a prison, not a spotlight. It flashes back validation, sure, but it blinds you from what really counts. Your users, their pain, their real lives, their true needs. Right now, so many founders are caught in this loop, designing for the idea of success, chasing applause, accolades, flipping the perfect pitch, and neglecting the one critical person in the entire equation, the user. The person stuck with the problem that you set out to solve. The person hoping you will actually make their life easier, their work lighter, their journey less painful. But instead, they get a product bloated with things you thought looked cool or made you feel powerful. The result? Disappointment, frustration, mistrust. A user base that's shrinking while your ego feeds on the dopamine of short-term wins. Can you feel that? That itch? That gnawing? It's the sound of your project bleeding because it's not about what people need. It's about what you want to be seen as. This is a war zone inside every founder's head, between who you really need to be and who the world expects you to look like. And the worst part is, it's subtle. It's sneaky. Ego disguises itself as ambition, as leadership, as vision. But here's the catch. Real ambition doesn't care about trophies. Real leadership doesn't command applause. Real vision doesn't expect blind love. It earns trust by building relentlessly around the user, their pain, their frustrations, not around the shiny image of the founder who makes it big. So how do you break out of this vicious cycle? How do you stop building for your ego and start building for your users, when the temptation to fixate on yourself is screaming louder each day? Strap in. This isn't some fluffy advice you've heard a million times. It's raw, it's real, and it just might save what you're building. First, strip everything down to the brutal core. Step 1. Become obsessed, not with growth, not with funding, not with press, but with understanding your user deeper than they understand themselves. This is more than surveys, more than focus groups. This is living in their shoes, feeling their frustrations as if they were your own. What wakes them up at night? What if your product wasn't there tomorrow? Would their world fall apart or would it keep spinning? If the answer is they'd be fine, then you've got nothing but a vanity project disguised as a startup. Dig deeper. Watch. Listen. Talk to the people who will hate your product before you ever celebrate the ones who love it. Because the pain they express, that's your blueprint to real value. Second, kill the features that don't serve that pain. Here's a dirty secret. The more features you build to impress others, the more your product becomes a Frankenstein, stitched from your own ego, not the user's needs. Cut, slash, pare down, be ruthless. Less is more isn't just a phrase, it's a lifeline. The users don't want more noise, they want clarity. They want a product so laser-focused on their problem that it feels like it's built just for them, not for your investor deck or your personal brand. Third, build humility into your daily routine. Imagine if every morning you woke up and reminded yourself, I am not my idea. Your startup is not your ego inflated on a public stage. It's a tool, a servant, a means to an end. Humility means owning your mistakes, listening to criticism, and being willing to change, even when it hurts. Because your ego will fight every change that challenges your personal pride. As founders, humility is the hardest muscle to build. But it's the strongest weapon in the fight against building for ego instead of users. Let's get brutally honest. If you're more focused on being seen, on the funding rounds, the fanfare, than on delivering relentless value day after day, you're already losing the war. Users feel it. The market feels it. Investors smell it like a bad smell in a room. If your heart isn't in the pain of the people you serve, then what you build won't last. It's that simple and that devastating. Now here comes the thing most founders won't say out loud because it's uncomfortable. You are not special because you have a brilliant idea. Ideas? Everyone's got those. It's execution that separates the rare from the many. The founders who build for users, not ego. Execution demands brutal honesty with yourself, constant reevaluation, and the courage to pivot away from your favorite pet features when users say no. Execution means getting your hands dirty in the messy, imperfect world of human needs, even when it's inconvenient. No shortcuts. But here's the good news. When you do start building for your users for real, when you start removing ego from the equation, everything changes. The feedback stops hurting. It starts guiding. Growth accelerates because your product isn't just noise, it's solution. And that solution builds the kind of loyalty you can't fake, no matter how big your marketing budget is. Users become fans, advocates, defenders. They tell their friends. They stay longer. They forgive your stumbles because they trust you. And trust is worth more than any pitch deck. To break free from your ego, start every week asking yourself one basic but ruthless question. Who am I building this for? Say it out loud, write it down, share it with your team. If the answers sound more like me or investors or the press, then stop. Realign. Make it about your users or admit you're building ego vanity, not a product that matters. Remember, the world doesn't need more noise, it needs what's authentic, what's valuable. We live in a time when the system tries to make you uniform, to force you into roles, scripts, false freedoms. But you're not here to fit in. You're here to break out. Founders who build ego first may light up momentarily, but they burn out fast. But founders who build relentlessly for their users, they become legends, unstoppable forces of real change, not because they chased applause, but because they earned it. This isn't about following the rules or fitting into some startup checklist. It's about radical honesty, fierce focus, and relentless humility. It's about becoming the founder your users deserve, not the founder your ego wants to be. It's about transcending the noise, the fake freedom, the illusion of control, and stepping into a higher game where your product breathes life into someone's real problem every day. So when the temptation comes to add that feature because it looks cool, or to twist your story because it sounds better for the media, stop. Ask yourself, does this serve my user's pain or my itch for attention? If it's the latter, don't build it. Walk away. Because every bite of your product that feeds your ego and not your users is a debt you'll pay in lost trust, lost users, lost future. You're not alone in this fight. The founders who dare to face their ego, who choose users over applause, end up building something no one else can, because they're real. And real connects, real lasts, real transforms. Don't wait for some magic moment to shed the ego. It's a daily battle. Every pitch, every sprint, every line of code is a choice. Choose your user. Build for their pain. Let go of your image. Be so obsessed with impact that ego becomes irrelevant noise in the background. Because here's the bottom line. A product built for ego dies quietly in the dark. A product built for users becomes a force that shapes futures. And that is the power every founder has, if only they dare to use it.